my Russian is really bad, so I'll be speaking in English. Hopefully you will enjoy it. I'm glad to see you all together here because I know you are strong security boys and girls. I feel it because after yesterday's party, yeah, we need some. I feel that you can hear something new, interesting, and I think most of you have faced such questions after some cyber incident. First question is, what happened? Yeah, boss always asks it, like, what happened? Second question, which systems were affected? What kind of information criminals were able to get? And third question, before boss asking what should we do to fix everything, he asks for what is the most important question? Yes, who did it? So it's rather interesting how to answer it. For us, security guys, it's always tricky. And like security community invented a way to name groups behind attacks. We feel like special forces fighting cybercrimes, fighting bad guys, and we have special names for these threats, like Stuxnet, Sophosy, Nikon, like, yeah, something interesting. But actually, there is a problem with these names. Despite the fact that we love them, all these names, and we suspect who can be behind these names. If you are not dealing with APTs every day, then you can get completely lost in all these names easily. So what security community invented? Which tool, how do you think do we use? Definitely, 2018, we use Excel. Excel tables with all the names from different vendors, with names of APT groups, like some vendors use numbers, some vendors use fancy names, but anyway, we have Excel table. Florian Roth is managing it, and at least you can understand when we are reading about different industrial street-run attacks and so on, like who first found it, A, and B, maybe there were some links. And actually, I think like vendors will be using their own names because you don't want to be dependent on somebody else's research. If they will go on wrong direction, to your opinion, then your research can be spoiled also. So bye. But who cares about names? Actually, a lot of people cares about names because naming is essential. Essential in a way that actually some governments, this bill from US government is already passed vote in House 8th of September this month. So it would be a huge database maintained by White House of all APTs, like names, like common name of APT, and possible actors behind this name. Okay. You know, like, behind this attack is some Sophosy, or behind this attack is a question group. What next? Okay, what to do? So from legal perspective, stakes in this game becomes higher. So if you'll take a closer look at the previous act, you will see that there is another act that is in proposal at the moment, not voted yet, called Cyber Defense and Response Act of 2018. And in this act, it's a rather small document, like 2 pages. First page contains information about previous act and says that if there is an attack on critical infrastructure or like some assets, government assets, so on and so on, please add attacker to this database maintained by White House. And the biggest part is about what would be consequences of getting in this list. And you can read carefully its sanctions, different kinds of. Okay, many years ago, in theory, we thought that these attacks will be solved in a proper way. Like police, with cooperation with industry experts, will catch criminals and they will go to jail, everything will be okay. Yes, it works. It works with, in the cases of cyber criminals when they're attacking banks, financial institutions, companies, trying to get information or money. But it works very bad when it comes to politics and like nation states sponsored attacks. Yeah. And also, even if there is a case, even if they are able, law enforcement is able to get all the necessary information, still the cases doesn't go anywhere. They just like in a swamp. But what we can do from technical perspective? This was like legal part. What about technical perspective? From technical point of view, we can rely on bad OPSEC, mistakes. It's obvious. We can rely on code reuse. How many programmers in the room? Like people who know how to program something, at least in some languages. Okay, cool. Most of you. So code reuse. We all reuse code. It's okay. We are lazy. Infrastructure use. Actually, operators of all the malwares, they're also lazy. It's okay. But since it's all technical stuff, if you know how it works, you can easily forge it. And I will show you how. So let's start from some examples. And I will show you how we can play a game of cyber paleontologists to dig out some interesting information. Let's start from famous, better say infamous, Lazarus group, who for many, many years, they were attacking different kind of companies, but first primary target for them always was manufacturing, different kinds of, especially in South Korea. Then second priority was finance, media, and military contractors. Military contractors also fell into category of manufacturing, actually, in most cases. And we were tracking them, catching their malware, looking at evaluation, and one day they attacked this nice entity. They attacked Bangladesh Central Bank and tried to steal $1 billion. But as I said, they are humans and they made a mistake. They made a mistake in SWIFT transaction, so they were able to steal only $81 million. Only 81 million, okay. But anyway, and during the investigation, we've seen that they used the same Viper that they used in attacks on manufacturing companies. So, oh, okay, some cool reuse. Then, actually, Bangladesh Bank was only tip of an iceberg. There were attacks on different financial institutions in different countries, in Americas, Europe, Africa, Asia, everywhere. And during one of such investigations or incident response with Polish banks, we stopped attackers before they were able to get money out of the bank. And law enforcement asked us to help with analyzing of command and control server. And it was very interesting investigation because during the investigation we found out that they are connecting to this server using different VPNs, obviously. They want to remain anonymous. So they used VPN in France, then they used VPN in Korea, and then they connected from North Korea. Quite strange thing. We Googled, I Googled, and there is no VPN service in this country. You can't buy it. So most likely it is mistake of an operator that shows us who can behind these attacks. But what next? Who remembers this date? WannaCry date. Exactly. I remember the date very good. Actually, it was like 3 days. In my memory, it's just one long day. So it was everywhere. Railways, stores, hotels, ATMs everywhere, including some plants. Honda suffered from this attack, and also Renault Nissan stopped 5 assembly lines because of this attack. It was a disaster. And after, okay, how to stop it? We know that we need to have some backups, restore everything, but who did it? And actually, our friend from Google, Neil Mehta, posted very nice tweet. I like such tweets. You just look at them and you understand that it means something. But actually, it means that this first hash is a hash of WannaCry. Second hash is a Lazarus backdoor from 2015 that they used to steal information from banks. And if you take a look at this RSS, it's just the same code, compiled from the same source code. It's custom. We like everything custom, especially when it comes to network connection. Custom SSL implementation. Not really good implementation, but anyway. Differently, they use the same Git. Maybe it's different people, but they have GitLab or whatever, and they are compiling their tools from the same source. So people behind attacking manufacturing companies, then attacking banks, and WannaCry, most likely, same people. OK, how Google did it? Very fast. So we suspect that they have a system, not only suspect, actually they have it, that can look at differences between files and say what is common code, what is not, and what is the difference. We thought that also we need such a system. But our collection is 5 petabytes of files, quite big one. It's an engineering problem. And Google have a lot of resources, has a lot of resources, computational power. How to do it with less resources? And we invented a way. We invented a technology using open source Yarra Engine. So it's standard de facto for threat hunters today. And try to play, do you remember game Fruit Ninja? When you slice different fruits. Yeah? Everyone played it? No? Yeah? So we throw a file in the air, slice it very fast, and then we make a reputation of all the strings and opcodes of this file. Yes, there is a tricky part how to get relevant code, but it's solvable. And then we have a database of parts of files that are good and parts of files that we've seen in some different attacks. And then we make a rule based on this file. So then we tested the system. And one of the first tests was actually WannaCry. Sorry, I forgot. So today, our system processes about 200,000 files per day. We know more than 40 million good files. We have more than 4 billion known good strings and 8 billion, more than 8 billion good opcode sequences, so some code. It's just to avoid false positives. And as I said, we tested it on WannaCry, and this rule, so these sequences of codes catches WannaCry. It catches Blue Norov that was used during a lot of different attacks on banks. It catches ManaCrypt that were used during attacks on manufacturing companies, and Decafed. The sample was used, is a backdoor used to attack domain controllers. So a lot of code you use. Anything else? OK, maybe this system works only with Korean code, Korean-speaking code? No. Another example, CCleaner incident from last year, when more than 1 million of computers were infected with legitimate patched version of legitimate CCleaner. And system immediately, like in a couple of minutes, showed us that actually this code, we already seen it somewhere. And we've seen it in APT-17 missile. What missile? If you remember 2010, before Stuxnet, several months before Stuxnet, there was a hack incident in Google. And behind this incident, Axiom Group. And we think that it is the same code that were used, like with different, with an evolution, but still it's code of this group, and they're still active. What else can we do with this system? Region, very interesting APT group. Like, let's go to western part of the world from Asia. This code was able to attack different telecommunications companies. And what is interesting, they were able to manipulate base GSM stations. And they were able to see who is calling whom, redirect calls, so work with GSM stations, base stations on a low level. Quite sophisticated stuff, honestly. And we checked this samples also through our system and found out that our Yarra rule works, detects shadow broker library. Shadow broker, if you remember, a leak from shadow broker was Eternal Blue was in this leak, and WannaCry happened because of Eternal Blue. And here we see that, okay, from the same leak, we have this DLL file with a lot of code similarities with region malware that were used to manipulate GSM base stations. We took a look at this CNLY1 file, and all of the experts have interesting prefix, CNE. What do you think? What is it stands for, CNE? Like, okay, first one is computer, obviously. Next one, most likely, network. Third one is exploitation, computer network exploitation. Interesting. Yeah, and if we'll take a look at the code in like C code produced by IDA, yeah, it's just the same code once again. Yeah, absolutely the same. Lamberts. Another interesting APT. It has a huge list of targets, but this list includes aerospace, ICS, energy sector, nuclear research, engineering, and so on. So quite relevant to our conference, I would say. And the story started from Zero Day found by FireEye. We started to investigate it further. And actually, it is very, very serious framework. The operator of this thing has more than 60 modules. So they can do particularly everything if they infect something. And it took us 3 years of research to found all the bones of this dinosaur, because first samples were from 2009, and to understand what kind of platforms they attack, what they can do. But if we had this system 3 years ago, we will solve this problem very fast, because they reuse code. And from first version, second version, so they have completely the same code. As I promised, last part is about false flags. OK, we can understand who can be behind. We can attribute to some group attacks. What in case if such things happens? When, for example, headlines says that, OK, even NSA says that North Korean hackers most likely are behind Bangladesh bank heist. What North Korean hackers would do? How do you think in current geopolitical situation? Easy. Blame everything on Russian hackers. It's like the easiest way. And they did it. They opened Google Translate and translated some Russian words into English, and added a Russian translation of functions to their code. Actually, they forgot to change the code. So the code remains the same, only names are in Russian. OK, nice try, but OK. And then Olympic Games happened. And during the Olympic Games, if you remember, there was an incident at the opening day, cybersecurity incident. There was a wiper attack on organizers, suppliers, partners of this event, including resorts, companies that provides ski passes, all this stuff. And they attackers choose very straightforward way to disrupt operations. They just used wiper. But this was like a typical wiper because it destroys information but doesn't destroy itself, which is strange. So they wanted us to play this game and try to attribute attack. And security community actually played this game. And next day it was like Chinese hackers behind this attack, Korean-speaking hackers behind this attack, Russian-speaking hackers behind this attack. We thought, OK, how it is possible? Too much opinion, too much options, and all of them are quite strange. We analyzed, and this file was full of false flags, especially crafted pieces of information inserted like in header of PE file, just to lead people in the wrong direction. We thought, OK, we cannot attribute it now, because it's full of strange information. But what we can do, we can look after it. And we continue monitoring, continued our monitoring. And one day, they reappeared with the same techniques to send the crafted documents, the same PowerShell scripts, more or less the same. And now they used to attack biological and chemical prevention laboratories across Europe and financial institutions, but only in Russia. And also, how they manage their infrastructure gives us a clue that most likely it is Russian-speaking hackers. OK, I covered like more or less everything. And this is like a new world where we can attribute attacks in more or less automated way. It's hard, but we can do it. And I think in several years, this technology will be more or less standard technologies. More and more companies trying to do it and attribute attacks automatically. From perspective of cyber criminals or bad guys, they will use definitely more open source tools because it helps to make attribution harder, and also they will add more false flags. So we will have more and more research we will have to do more and more research to attribute attacks right. But we have some ideas. Maybe next year I will show you some new technologies and methods to attribute cyber attacks. Thank you very much.